created the suit myself, a painter suit. I was doing
Help.
some exercises and I ripped my pants out. I'm putting
Need
the
some help,
canvas
Clovis?
up in there not to paint.
All
Yes, everything I made, everything that you see, I
All
had to
right.
right.
Sorry.
create. No, I built that.
Oh, you did?
And that was built in order
Yeah.
to contain the paint.
That's
so
okay.
It did not fly all over it. I call it drift.
So you brought the whole thing?
Yes, we
Pick
shipped
up these
everything
bags
to
and get them
Houston.
in one area.
It took a while.
What, space?
Houston, Texas, the NASA Johnson Space Center.
Right, all the way there.
They have a program. NASA has a program. It's called the NASA Reduced Gravity Student Flight Program. And I built a partnership with the San Francisco Art Institute and the California Space Grant Consortium. And we applied as a team to go into this space to study
And do what?
from a scientific point of view fluid dynamics and conservation of angular momentum. But as an artist, I was wanting to create drift paintings.
All right.
I use the word drift
Hey, guys!
because I reference
Whoa,
the
look at
situation
that!
in France. They use drift and détournement and a variety of things in their appropriation techniques.
Okay, I can.
In this case, I'm appropriating what Jackson Pollock did as action painting, but I eliminated the structure, the institution of NASA and the jet.
Okay.
Technology was the structure that
Get this
contained
microphone clipped on again.
and the purpose was to help reduce stress and decrease boredom and to ensure that art goes into space with us as we leave planet Earth. Not just science, not just engineering, but art.
So thank you. You explained that very well to us. Thank you for bringing all this with you. I know it takes a lot of time to gather all this.
With pleasure.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about you. So you are an artist, obviously. You also a teacher, and you occupy your time mostly creating new things.
I build connections with people. I build community projects such as Intergeneration. This was a project that we did that brought youth and seniors together in the queer community. We wanted to make sure that we used performance and interactivity, poetry reading. These are all stories that people had written. You're more than welcome to keep that. We had photographers who got involved with producing and designing.
This project, it was like a whole day project.
A whole 2 years. It was
Oh.
many years. It's still going on.
Oh my goodness.
And that came from the fact that I needed to work. So I
When
learned.
you say 2 years, like every Saturday or every what?
We did creative group encounters, and
Yeah.
so we got together maybe every 2 months,
Yeah.
and then we built
2 months.
towards a performance that happened free to the public during the International Lesbian and Gay Arts Festival, and this was back in 2002. But
Okay.
prior to this, I directed the city's arts festival. I've done a lot of public projects. And that took me to the space sciences. The functioning of the art making takes me to different communities where the art can unfold.
Okay, is your art done first on computer, then painted over, or is it directly painted?
I am totally a traditionalist in terms of, well, I'm an interdisciplinary artist. So a lot of my work is painted by hand, intuitive. Others, I've used digital cameras. I studied in painting at the University of the Arts in Philadelphia, and then I came here to the San Francisco Art Institute and continued painting. But at that point, I switched to new genres, to performance art, to the Center for Digital Media. That's when I really started getting interested in the hybridization of computer technologies and creativity. So indeed, some of my work, I will say, for example, use some video, and then I'll take a still and I'll make a 35 millimeter slide and I'll transfer that to a Xerox, and then I'll cover that with acrylic paint and soak it in water and peel the paper off and then have the image in the paint, and then apply that to a canvas and then continue painting on it. In other situations, I just start painting and I intuitively allow the experience to flow. I do so many different types of work. Some work is done as expressive and creative and meditative. Other work is done specifically to be political.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you have your own gallery?
No, I do have people who represent my art, but in terms of galleries, I haven't really spent time going out looking for gallery representation. I have just spent time dealing with example for museum exhibits. This was a wonderful exhibit in Paris in 2002.
Oh my goodness.
And this was the an international festival that Jean-Luc Serret created.
Oh.
It was at the Museum of European Photography, and this was the first time in 2002 that Paris showcased an amazing exhibition of artists who work in space exploration, which is
Oh.
what I do.
What you do?
Well, I painted in zero gravity, and I did a presentation there.
And who made the book?
Jean-Luc Serret. I mean, take a look. This is what this book. I knew how historical this event was, so I made sure I got a lot of the other artists to sign it. So this is the only copy.
Oh, sure, that one.
Oh, isn't this wonderful? This is the Tate in space. This is a concept of how the Tate Museum imagines itself in the future. There will be museums in space. I mean. Well, the
In
Louvre in space. Yes, of course. That's what
But
this
who's
is
gonna
all
go
about.
see it in space?
Well, let's talk about 100 years ago. How many people flew on airplanes? A few,
Okay.
a couple. It
Oh,
was
it's for
very
the
exclusive.
future. It's for the
Oh,
future.
sure. You and I did fly in weightlessness. How incredibly privileged. I'm so grateful to NASA and all my collaborators to invite me into that space to experience creativity and to try to help space science. And we continue to do that. I'm chair for the Space Arts track for the International Space Development Conference. And, I've influenced them to the point of where, I'm writing articles now about the Google Lunar X Prize and Carnegie Mellon's bid to become one of the first teams to send a robot back to the moon. And this time it's going to do art on the moon. It's going to draw on the moon. It's going to do an interactive sound piece between the Earth and the moon. And I also got to write about some of my other pieces, like in 2006. I got to I flew again. This first flight was in 1998. And then in 2006, I flew again. And this time I took plastic and I floated this in weightlessness to talk about new microgravity mobiles.
Oh.
So imagine these floating in zero gravity and how beautiful that was.
And it was taped too.
And, yeah. I have
It's all in
video
there?
of it. I didn't give you copies of it.
That's okay.
But
it was
it's there. Oh, it's taped.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I did, there's this great book, and this art. I'm a queer artist, and there's this artist in Paris, France. His name was Gabriel Pomerand, and he did graffiti on the left bank. And this is some of the graffiti that he did on the left bank. So
Okay.
what I did was I appropriated it. I scanned this into the computer, and then I printed out cards.
But you went to France for that?
No, I researched.
Oh, you found it.
I found it. Yes, a lot
Okay.
is chance and discovery.
Okay.
It-
So this is something that you find and you put in the form of a book?
This was something I found, and I appropriated the imagery.
Oh,
So
the
I
book
sca-
you found.
I researched this artist and knew
Okay.
he was
And
gay,
he has a book.
and this is his book.
Okay.
This is his book.
Do you have a book?
My own book? Well, I do
Did
have
you
this.
produce a book?
Not yet. No,
Not like this.
not like this. But we did do this book. This book
Oh, you
is.
do have a book.
Well, this is by Arthur Evans, and it's
But
called
your
The
stuff
Critique.
is in it.
Yeah, but it's focusing on his work, his writings.
Okay, so the reason he put you in his book is why?
He
Oh,
appreciated
artwork by
my art.
Frank.
Yeah,
Okay.
he in this book, it's his writing on philosophy. Basically, philosophy I support, the critique of patriarchal reason. That's why I flew in
But that's
weightlessness.
not your painting, is it?
Yes.
Oh, it
yeah.
is.
Sure.
Oh, you do
That's-
black and white too?
No, that
This
painting.
is a painting in color.
Yes, and you'll
Is there color stuff in there?
no, it was too expensive to print in color, and
So
we got
he just took it and made it black and white.
yeah.
But how come the book is so long? He has a lot to say.
He has a lot to say, and
But nobody likes to read long books. They rather
oh,
watch
I don't
pictures.
know.
Maybe
True.
artists do. Maybe artists do.
Maybe.
Do you like to see or do you like to read?
I love reading, writing, and seeing all of it. I write a lot. I write so many papers.
So you actually would have the patience to read such a thick book?
Yes, I read many books like this. As a matter of fact, I was going to bring a variety of them just to share some of them with you, like
What
The
does
Gift.
he talk about? I mean, there's about 300 pages there.
Well, he's talking about the historical development of language and the use of language, and how the philosophy of certain philosophers.
And it's related to your art?
Yes, insofar as the politics of what he's promoting here. Arthur Evans, he was called the Red Queen. He has now since passed away, this
Really?
sweet man. Yeah, and he was a great activist in the queer community here. He wrote a book on
that's
witchcraft
why-
and the gay
that's why he included
counterculture.
your graphics.
We were
Okay.
good friends, and he liked my work, and so we talked about going to the Arts Commission, the San Francisco Arts Commission, to get an individual artist commission grant, which we did.
You did?
Yes, and that's how they
Thanks to the
published this.
book?
The Arts Commission published this book. The San Francisco Arts Commission
goodness.
helped us publish
And every
this.
year the art commission give you a grant?
Only if you apply for it. People can apply every couple of years, and it's a wonderful opportunity for artists. It's helped
So
me
they
out.
pick a few. They pick a few.
Yeah, I got a grant for this for intergeneration. I received a grant for this from the Arts Commission. This happened many years before this, and then we got a grant from
You got to know how to write the proposal.
and to ensure that the concepts help the
help
community.
Help the community. And who decide who gets the grant?
Well, there's usually committees. It's really cool. They pick people who are really well versed in understanding the arts community, and they really read and take great care in understanding the communications that the artists write in their
So
proposal.
you send them a file with all your paintings.
Actually, a very specific proposal. As artists.
Oh, very specific projects.
A written proposal that talks about
You
marketing
need
plans.
You need a grant writer for that.
I have to become a grant writer. I think we can do a lot of different things. I think that's my
No,
strength.
we have a grant writer at BAVEC.
Oh, well, yes,
But
but I've
what-
written them myself.
Okay. No, because all he does full time is get grants for BAVEC.
Yes, I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I can't. I mean, I'm not that
It's
great
not
of a
full
grant
time
writer.
for you. It's
no.
just when you have a project.
Yes.
Okay, now when you have, let's say, a new series, let's say 10 paintings,
Yes.
you create an expo, I assume.
I haven't. I mean, I in different ways. I mean, it takes a lot to take all my paintings and market them because there's so many different styles. And I would prefer to just keep working at what I'm doing. I do sell art, things happen, but I'm not strategically trying to make any of that happen. I'm just responding to different museums that want my work, people who want me to write about my work.
Is your artwork been shown in the museum?
A few in Paris, in the museum.
It's donated to them.
No, it was shipped to, say, for example, to Zurich at the Museum of European
they
Design in
keep it?
Zurich. No, because this painting, the one that document that you saw.
I heard that museum keep the stuff. No.
No. This was just for an exhibition.
Okay.
I don't have the book on that
So
exhibition.
you're not
but
like someone that they want to have permanently in the museum.
I don't think I'm well known enough yet. I mean, in very small circles. But that circle is increasing.
Okay.
And I flew in 1998, and the influences continue to expand. And I am thrilled with the amount of visibility my work has gotten. And from the New York Times doing a half-page feature in the Sunday Arts and Leisure section to being able to write in the National Space Society's Ad Astra magazine, to influence the space scientist. You'll see a document in there of a whole video program I produced with my students at the Academy of Art University. I teach in the Web Design New Media department, and I said to all my students, I said, you have an opportunity to use motion graphics, and they were just learning it. And it's a really hard application for people to learn. And I said, you have a great opportunity to talk directly to the leaders of space science, because I'm the chair for the space arts track. That was in San Juan, and I said, let's have you produce some great videos about what you think your culture might look like manifested in space. Because the French, for example, Kitsu Dubois, one of the most important contributors to French culture, but also Kness, she flies and has flown many, many times with the French Space Agency, and she's one of the leaders in learning how to do dance and movement. Very theoretical, very adept, amazing artist.
And then you made something out of this.
Well, she did for sure. She's in this book. She was one of the major exhibitors in this book, and
He talks about her too.
oh yes, these
there's
are.
a few color.
Oh, there's so many different artists in here. This is about all the space junk that surrounds the planet. There's an artist, Richard Clark,
Does
who's
he do
tracking that.
Let me see yours in color. Let me see.
Let's see. Do I have
This one in the middle.
This is Pierre Comte. He's French. He
Okay.
floated this on the International Space Station.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
The
It's
one on
gorgeous.
the left is you, right?
No, these are not. Not my pieces. This is a sky art piece that you see from.
Okay.
From.
Which one is yours?
Let me go over here.
It's black and white. Yours is only black and white.
No, I don't know. Let's see.
There's so
Where
many,
is
huh?
it? There are many artists. So initially, it's in black and white. This is I write
They
about.
talk about
you know.
it. Oh, you.
I
wrote
had to
about
write this. Yeah, I write. I
it.
have
You
to
wrote
write
about
a lot.
yourself, and this is you.
Yes, this is my work, which is documentation of the video we just saw.
Oh,
Look at how beautiful this
interesting.
book is.
This book must have cost a fortune to make.
Honest to goodness. And I got it signed by so many of the artists because I knew this was historical. This was in Paris in 2002.
And they gave the books away?
Lots of them. And now I hear these are collector's items, the marketing
Oh,
materials
because-
and
because
stuff,
we don't
because it
have
was
too
so
many left.
unique. Yeah, there's not many left.
That's awesome. Oh my goodness.
But you know what? As a gift from one person from France to you, please keep that.
No, what I'm saying is that because of that special event, they printed a few.
Oh, they
Yeah.
printed thousands of those,
Oh,
but
they did.
they're gone. Yeah, I think
so
they're
we can
kind
show
of
them
gone.
like that.
But this book, I mean, I've kept this.
If you have it scanned, you can just send me the digital file.
Okay, I'll do that.
that'll
Okay.
be, that'll be good. Because I know you sent me a few that I will insert.
Mm-hmm.
And then when your art, I mean your actual color art,
Yes.
is shown at your home.
Well, I do have a website.
This is it.
Well, no, this was from a long time ago. This is
Oh, I know you
1996.
brought one piece.
I did. I do have a traditional painting. Yes, yes, yes.
Oh.
I did bring this with me because I do paint, and I love painting, and
Okay,
I love
here
color.
we go. Here we go. We
You know,
have
this
the
is like a
actual stuff.
traditional painting. Yes, this
Colors are cute.
Thank
yeah.
you.
That's what I'm wearing today.
is. Oh yeah, yeah, yes.
Blue,
Here, let's
red,
see it.
or-
Next to you.
That is exactly what I'm wearing today.
Oh.
Blue and orange and green. for me.
Beautiful.
So that is perfect. You picked the right one for
And you- Yeah.
for my top.
Yes.
And I have also purple here,
I love that.
purple and red. So you
And-
picked all my colors.
And look at even here in the flowers and stuff. And there is a sense of nature to this. This feels like
if
it's
I
under
stand
the
up, you can see
water.
there's purple
Yeah.
and blue.
Wow.
So this is exactly what I'm wearing today. I mean, in terms of colors.
And those kinds of coincidences are really something to be aware of. Be-
No, I mean, I picked up and I say, my God, these are the colors I'm wearing today.
And that's a wonderful chance.
Oh, that is
And a
just
lot of great
just
art.
a coincidence.
Maybe.
No, you just picked it and you said that's the one.
Well, I love this painting because I think these are some of my favorite colors.
Yeah, I like green
You
and
like-
I like blue and I like it's very awesome and the orange and awesome
So
and
and
the pink and the red and so you picked very very wisely. I mean, not wisely. I mean, intuitively.
And maybe part of your soul manifested this in this space too. It might
Yeah.
not just be me, because I think we're the same creature.
Yeah.
I don't think
No, you're intuitive, maybe.
maybe yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you say, "Oh, this is the one I should pick for her," because I'm sure you have dozens at home,
Thousands.
and you pick that one.
Yes.
That's such a coincidence. It's awesome. I've never seen anything like this. So this is great. I'm happy that something artistic came out of the interview.
So, of course, the collaboration is the most important part. And you're beaming with. I appreciate your energy. I can see that. What the beauty about art making is the gift it gives.
Yeah.
Art is just all about giving. It really is. It has to be. There's a book called The Gift, talking about reading thick books. It's called The Gift, The Erotic Life of Property. And it's very important today when we think about property, especially with the elections here in the United States, and we think about public property and private property.
Oh.
And I'm creating a lot of, is this public property or
Or is
private
it mine?
property?
Yeah.
And I had to work with NASA, and that was all public property. When I got on that jet, that was not my private studio.
Okay.
That was a public space where I was welcomed
You
in.
contributed to it.
I did contribute to it. And it actually worked out really well. As a gay man, I did a lot of things, not only in that flight, but in 2006. Many years later, I flew a second time.
Really?
And that's where Gilbert Baker, the creator of the
How come
Rainbow
they
Flag.
allowed you to go there? You asked?
Oh, yes. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
you had to ask.
Not in 1998. In 1998, by 2006, I had influenced enough through writing and through contributing to this community where I was welcomed in as an events producer to produce conferences for artists within the context of space exploration. You see, I had the pleasure of working at Discovery Channel as an events producer because I had to figure out how to make money in addition to doing art. So I appropriated business conventions as an events producer, always thinking about how to help improve the quality of people's lives. I think art has to be about helping improve the quality of the democracy of all people's lives.
Oh, why would art improve people's lives? You mean improving the quality of their life?
Well, just for this one moment, by simply seeing these colors, look
On
at
me?
in the moment what
Yeah.
this did for you in terms of your feelings.
Oh, no, it made me feel good because I have those colors,
Mhm.
pink and blue, and it's awesome.
And so when other people see different things, like for example, just even thinking about this concept where we want to send artists into space as artronauts.
Yeah.
I came up with the word artronaut.
Yeah.
And you know what? When you see something like this as a human being, this is not only art, but it's space.
Inspirational. It's inspirational, maybe for the future.
It's inspirational. Yes, it's inspiration,
wanna do-
creation,
oh.
participation, and transformation.
Oh, I didn't even read it.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is to make a space art.
Yes, this is all about making space art. It started with Sky Art. Sky Art Conference happened in Greece,
Oh.
and it was the Massachusetts Institute of Technology Center for Advanced Visual Study flew 50 of us to Greece with the Ministry of Culture of Greece to have a conference in the center at Delphi and in Icaria. And I got to meet so many famous artists who are working
They
with
put
the
it
sky.
also in the book.
She's a sky artist,
Yeah.
and what she's using, this is interesting and controversial, she's using genetic engineering as painting.
Oh.
She's changing the patterns on butterfly wings as
Oh,
a
and
geneticist
she makes the
as
connection.
painting. Now, people, it's like, well, should she intervene in the life of these butterflies as art?
Oh, because she go close and it looks like engineering.
She goes into the genetic level and changes the genes so the butterfly's patterns change.
Ah.
The physiology of the butterfly
That's
changes because she
ingenious.
intervenes in the genes as sculpture.
Oh, she's ingenious. Yes.
But I don't know, is it right for the butterflies?
No,
Like,
I mean-
should the
I mean,
butterflies be
it-
changed?
No, I mean she's inspired by them.
Yes, by the beauty of the patterns of the butterflies.
No, if it inspired her, why not? I mean, we don't know what inspired an artist. some artists are inspired by this, some artists are inspired by some colors like you did,
Uh-huh.
some artists are inspired by forms and sculpture. So every artist is different because, whatever comes from you and you put it in a reality
Yeah.
is art. I mean, if you can create something and you want to call it art, then it is.
That's right. Thank you, Marcel Duchamp.
Is that what he said?
Well, I mean,
Something like that.
Dada was the democratization and the fact that we don't need to be heroic anymore. You know, everything. If I simply, I think we can all look at different things and just say how beautiful things are and consider it to be art. Like the urinal, that he took the urinal and turned it upside down. He had a ready-made. He found the urinal. He did not make the urinal. He found it. It was a ready-made. He's saying, this is already beautiful. I don't have to be a heroic artist in order to,
Where did he find it?
I'm not sure.
It's an antique?
I don't know. That's an interesting question. I don't know. I don't know
okay,
where
okay.
Marcel Duchamp found his urinal, but that's a great question. I'm sure
Okay,
art
so
historians
did you
know.
study in any university in Paris, or did you have any formal training?
Yeah, I started studying in 1968.
The history of art?
The history of art, painting, printmaking, drawing.
So there is a background there.
Oh, totally.
Okay.
I studied for 10 years at Carnegie Mellon as a associate
student?
fellow,
So it improved.
working on the space science stuff.
Oh, okay.
But prior to that, from 1973 to 1977, I went to college for fine arts at the University of the Arts in Philadelphia.
So you had totally immersion of it.
In the
Immersion in the
70s?
art centers.
And then I went back 20 years later in the 90s. So I had a break of 20 years from education. I finally got my BFA in the 1990s when I went back to the San Francisco Art Institute. And that's when...
It's called Bachelor of Fine Art.
Yes, bachelor in interdisciplinary arts.
So did you have to create something like that to get it?
I created this there. This was done at the Center for Digital Media at the San Francisco Art Institute. I learned Photoshop and Illustrator, and what I did was I went out on the street and I wanted to create images of lesbian and gay people. Photoshop and Illustrator instead of painting. I was learning computer technology, which I love too.
I tried to learn Photoshop, but then it's not my cup of tea. I mean, I don't like to sit in front of a screen. I rather interact.
Yeah. But it was important, I think, to put this image out there with these.
And you sold this?
Oh, I do, yes. And it was a fundraiser. We did it as a fundraiser for visual aid.
Oh, visual aid.
A portion of any sales went to visual aid. But
Do you sometimes go to an event like this Sunday? There is the ballet in the Stern Grove and take picture or anything like that?
Well, that's how you'll see the Light Being series. I don't consider myself a photographer, even though I love taking photographs.
So you don't paint over a photo?
There are times when I transfer the photo and it becomes all paint. And then what I do is I'll take a print.
Because I've seen artists who actually take a picture and paint over it.
Yeah, no, I don't do that.
You don't do that.
I will take a picture.
Yeah.
And then I will make a print. I'll make a print.
Yeah, and
So
mix it with something.
And then cover it with matte medium, acrylic matte medium. You cover it, you let it dry, you put another coat, you let it dry, you put another coat.
Will any of the pictures show?
15 coats, 15
will
coats
any of the
of paint.
picture show? The picture will be...
What happens, it's clear and translucent.
It's clear.
Then you take it and you soak it in the bathtub and the paper becomes really moist. And you scratch off the paper. You scratch the paper off the back and the paper's gone. And what happens is the print transfers to the paint. And then I have a skin of paint. It's just like skin. It's just like a stained glass window.
But then
and the image is in it.
The image stays.
Is in the paint. Is in the acrylic paint. So I have a skin of acrylic paint.
It's a different form of art, I guess.
It's
very, very. You need to know how to do it.
Well, it was a technique people knew at the Art Institute.
You learned, okay.
But
And does
I
it come
did it
out
really
beautiful?
large scale. I do them really large,
Very
really
large?
big.
Ah.
And other people were only working at the size of color Xeroxes.
How can you dip a very large in your bathtub?
That's as wide as I can get.
As wide as you
At
can
this
get.
point.
So you do this and this and this.
Yeah, and then you have the skin of paint, and then I take a wooden panel, traditional wooden panel,
Oh.
and it's then gessoed like a traditional panel from the 1300s.
Oh.
I gesso it with white gesso, and then it's like a canvas. So I take the skin of paint with the image in it, and then I put matte medium on the canvas, and then I apply the skin of paint right to the wood. So right now then, it had gone through many different forms of media: photography, printmaking, computers, a print, and then it's become acrylic paint. It's gone back to traditional painting mediums. But it has the legacy of having gone through the computer, having gone through the photograph, and now it's just paint on wood. And then I can go and continue painting on it,
What do
which
you mean
I
on
do.
wood? On actual wood?
Yeah. They're done on wood.
Okay, and that's heavy, no?
It is heavy, yes,
Okay.
but it's permanent, and it's
People buy it?
Oh yes, I do sell these. I do sell my art. I mean, I've sold paintings
so
for
you
$10,000.
have acrylic and you have wood and you have all kinds.
Oh
and you
yes,
have these.
These drawings. I have thousands of
So
drawings.
you know all forms of medium.
My degree was in interdisciplinary arts.
Oh,
That's why
so
I work with space science.
And with the wood and with the acrylic and with the paint.
And now you could be criticized for
doing
being
too many.
But the beauty about it is, for me, it's of our time. I am a product of our time.
We do many things.
We love many things. I love all of these things.
I
I
know.
can't just do one thing. I don't want to do just one thing.
I know, because
can
when
do-
I tell people I do many things, they
Yeah.
say, how can you concentrate on any of these?
But we can.
Yeah.
And I
because
do.
we like many things.
And somehow, I don't know how we have the capacity. I do not know. I don't know how I've done all this.
Because when you get bored with one thing, you switch to another medium and you get inspired to do that one.
And I'm always mixing, teaching and making money that way and selling a painting here and there. And I'm always
This can
looking
take
for
up
work.
to a month to make, no?
This
Yeah.
this took my whole life. It took my whole life to get to this point to make this.
Okay, so you did it recently?
This one was done. Let's see. I
When
think
you say the
no.
teaching of your whole life got into this.
Yes.
I got it, but how long it actually took your paintbrush to do it?
Well, I start by I just start
Like say, a little bit of green.
and not even know what it's going to be.
Okay.
And I
That I
trust.
understand. That I understand.
And I allow it to lead me to where it should be. And I have to let my ego get out of the way.
Yeah.
It'll become
Something.
retarded if I
Oh,
put too much
No,
ego in it.
don't put too much ego. You just let it go.
It calls me to become this. It's
Ah.
a symbiotic. It's a relationship between my insides being put into the material to send off into the future. It's going off into the future. I'm going to die, and this is going to travel off, and people 300-400 years now will look at this.
So we're gonna take a picture with the green and the orange and the pink
Okay.
next to the thing, so you can see that something came together.
I would like that. That would be great.
That would be funny. Yeah.
But the sad thing is-
anyway, maybe when you painted it, you say, maybe Aline is gonna wear this. Okay, these colors.
I don't know. I wonder, because the physicists say time and space folds in on itself.
Yeah, and then they match.
So did you somehow pull me to make this choice?
No,
I don't know about
it just
that.
happened that today it finally came together. Something like that. Yeah, so it's, the Albert Einstein say everything is energy. So it's not, there is no coincidence. It's everything is energy. So when the energy gets together, it matches. You agree?
It's so reflective. It's so beautiful what we're living on.
Yeah.
Like the fact that your body and my body, we're exchanging electrons. When we sleep, we dream the same. We have similar things in our unconscious. Like in a forest, all of the mushrooms are the same family. And I heard that if one tree is sick, all the other trees know, and they send the energy through the roots to the sick tree. Now, how do I know that you, even though it appears that you're separate from me, I wonder if we're the same fungus on the surface of the planet, that we're literally the same being.
Yeah, because when you look at the planet from the top, we just tiny little
Tiny,
molecules.
right.
Yeah. We don't know. We just parcels of the whole thing.
But I can have greater compassion for you if I see that you're me. And if I look at everybody and know that that person's body is my body, I cannot harm you. I cannot harm myself.
Yeah, hopefully everybody will think that way. It would be so good. But most people get stuck by things like religion or color, or and then what happens is they divide each other. Shouldn't be that way.
We're afraid to die. I think my ego wants to maintain my identity at all cost.
And what's your identity?
Oh, it's changing all the time.
Okay.
I think it's an amorphous, beautiful unfolding. Who I am today wasn't who I
What you
was
were.
tomorrow, and who I
Okay.
will be tomorrow.
But you want to keep it.
There's an essence, I think, for all of us, it stays the same, but then
Oh.
everything is changing too.
Whether we like it or not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we age first of all, but we wanna. But inside we have the same soul.
The same feelings, yeah, and the same hopes, and so I think, like I said, hopefully art can help cause people to wonder and think, and it can take many different forms. And I think artists today have to be very, very, very professional and very top at what they do. Whether my work isn't that great technically, I think technically I could improve my work. It's okay. But
If someone wants to buy this, you would bargain with them about it?
no, I have list prices.
Oh,
I mean, I've established certain prices.
It's not a negotiation kind of thing.
Well, I would offer negotiations depending on the person, but there are list prices.
On your website.
I must say,
On your website, it's the list price, right?
for certain work, but most of my work is not on my website.
Okay.
We took it all down. We only have one because it was confusing
There's
people.
a few colored
A
pieces.
couple, but they're all the same style because
Oh.
it was confusing people. Someone who was doing my website said it was too confusing, so just do one style.
Oh, really?
So I took everything down.
Yeah, that's what I noticed. I noticed it was only one kind of series of pictures, series of colors.
And so I'm not sure,
So
how to
not
deal with that.
everything is reflected in it.
Not at all.
No, it will cost you a fortune to actually put all your artwork in a website. Although there are websites that are geared for artists where they can post as many as they want.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ye-
So, and people would buy the art.
Now I know
mean-
some of my paintings are in Zurich. I sold a painting for about 15,000. It's in Zurich.
It's large then.
Yes, that's
It's
a big
huge.
piece, and
It's
they
huge.
shipped it. It was a beautiful oil painting called Costanza, and that piece that
And
I
they
did
put it where?
at their home.
Oh, okay. It's not like an office.
And I've
or-
sold hundreds of paintings over
Really?
my lifetime. Oh yeah, I sell.
So you are well known then,
I don't think so. No, no,
but
no.
you can still sell.
Oh, I do sell. Oh yeah, I
Just-
sell periodically.
You sold anything at the Union Square artist? Or-
No, I never do things like that because it
The
takes a lot of
tourists who
time.
walk there.
But it takes so much time to bring
Bring
the
them
art
there?
there, set it up, sit with it.
And sit all day.
That's why I don't do many exhibitions. Unless someone comes and takes the work, like when I exhibited.
Let's say you take this and you sit with it
Yeah.
until someone buys it.
Mhm.
A tourist might look at it. It would be good. I mean, it would be a good use of your time.
Probably not. I mean,
No?
except to meet people. To sit there and enjoy and engage people, that would be fantastic. But to sit there
And
to
wait
try
for
to sell
someone-
it, no, I
No?
don't care. No, I
But
don't
so-
care about
but
selling it that
If they
much.
keep doing it, that means some people are selling.
Yes, they are, and I love them
Or they
for it.
wouldn't go back.
I don't want to do that with my time, though.
Okay.
I have so many other things I need
You
to do
have
with
a
my
lot of
time.
things.
Teaching alone, I teach
have
so
to
many
prepare your
students.
material.
Yeah, a lot of that. Yeah.
You have to prepare every week your class.
Well, yes, but they're pretty structured. I've been teaching for 18 years at
So
the
you know
Academy
exactly
of
what to teach.
Art.
All
I
those
do.
things.
Yeah.
things change a little bit.
Oh, totally, because the technology keeps increasing. You see with
Photoshop is the same as 18 years ago.
no. Oh, I'm always learning. I am a lifelong learner. I'm
It
always
has,
going
it
to
has
school.
changed. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I came here to the Bay Area Video Coalition to go back to school.
Really?
Oh yeah, got a degree here in I mean a certificate. What am I saying? A certificate in video post-production.
And then they hired you.
And then they hired me, which was great. I love
Oh.
it. I love teaching here because I love teaching because it's giving back, and my students do like me. I
Okay.
can tell.
I know that teaching is a very rewarding job. I don't know if you want to call it a job, but because it's a give and take.
Yeah.
And anyway, so do you want to tell us about your next project if you have one?
You know, I am working on a couple of paintings right now,
Yeah.
but not.
Super big?
No, not. You know, uh, really, what right now I'm focusing in because I'm getting ready to teach again. I'm really focusing in on After Effects. I was just studying After Effects on the way over here more. In
After
terms of my
Effects?
After Effects, Adobe After Effects, video editing, because it's what I teach. And so I know that I'm chair for the Space Arts track in 2017. And as a part of my work, when I start teaching in September, I'm going to make sure that we get some more videos off to them from this next group of students. I'll be teaching 60 students, 3 classes in motion graphics. So
Okay.
those
Motion
6
graphics is very interesting because it's moving. Yeah.
Right. And so painting and weightlessness, you know, with these floating, it's
Yeah.
about movement.
Yeah.
And then to take text and float this in weightlessness, this was about poetry. This was about creating new forms of
You
writing
kept the video.
that that would keep changing, you know, so that well these floated. What meaning comes of looking at these signs as they're floating in the air?
Oh, some people pick up something and some others.
Exactly. And if we're floating now, think of the idea of post-structuralism, that you're the interpreter and I'm the interpreter and we're looking at a narrative.
And I might interpret different than you.
Well, you are, because look at what you're looking at. What
My
you're looking
angle,
at.
my angle. Oh,
And if you're floating in weightlessness, you're changing and it's changing.
Yeah.
So your point of view
Yeah,
is
I've
changing.
seen
It's
things-
so.
I've seen things taken from one angle, looks like something, like an elephant, and you take it from another angle, and it looks like a giraffe. So, no, it depends of the angle of the camera.
So then what meaning comes of that? So really the whole idea was if you and I are going to fly to Mars together in a very tight space, smaller than this,
Yeah.
and there's 4 of us,
Yeah.
what are we going to do for all that time?
Kill each other and eat each other.
I say I'm going to bring things from my home and we're going to float them together so that
But
you
we'll have to need food, right?
food, but entertainment, we're going to have to play some kind of card game.
Oh, we'll play card game, all right. But we'll be in the same space shift?
For 2 years.
Oh,
How are you going to do that? How are we going to live together for 2 years in a tight spaceship?
I don't think I can. I'll probably pass.
That's the beauty about the astronauts and the people who are preparing for that, because they have to be really very
How
special
long they
kinds
stay in
of people.
Space? Like 1 month max.
Oh no, I think it's a couple years to get to Mars. It takes a long time. It's going to be a long journey in a tight, confined space. That's why I believe that art is going to help them.
But they will be bored, no?
That's why I think they need to do some kind of games. They need to
can
do
they bring,
something.
Movies?
Well,
no.
when you're working on your video, doesn't all time and space disappear? You're so into it. Oh my God, 7 hours have gone by. When people are totally into what they're doing,
Oh, that's
time
true.
disappears.
That's true. That's true.
So,
But 2 years is a long time.
But I
I would
bet you-
need to be very busy.
or something.
But it takes probably. I mean, this is all imaginary because it will never happen yet.
Oh,
Nobody
it-
wants to sit for 2 years
Oh,
in
there's
a capsule.
there's hundreds of people already applying to go.
No.
Oh yeah, thousands of people are already
But
set
they
to
don't know
go.
what's in it for them. 2 years.
I think they're just. I don't know what motivates these people to want to go, but there are
But the
lots
people
of
who
people
went
who
to
do.
the moon was how long?
I think the moon. Well, I guess it depended. Like in 1969 when we landed on the moon, 50 years ago almost.
How long
Right?
it
It's like,
took?
well, it was a few days for sure.
Yeah,
Right?
takes a while to get
It's
there.
a while to get there. Yes,
And then
it's
they
definitely.
landed on the moon and came back.
And they went behind the moon.
Took
They went
millions of pictures,
yeah, millions of pictures. And
brought the whole thing back.
some of it, yes, they brought some of it back, and lots of memories and lots of interpersonal experiences and lots of challenges. HBO did a great.
But nobody does it twice. I mean, each time you see a report on astronaut going, it's always a new astronaut. Must be a reason for that.
Yeah, I think there
and
is.
the reason is they can't do it more than once. It's because it's too much.
Oh, I think it's because they want as many people as possible to experience it.
You think that's the reason?
I think that's the reason.
I think
I
maybe
know
they
there's.
refuse to go a second time.
I-
I mean, you risk your life one time. Would you risk it a second time?
Well, you know, there's a great book called Almost Heaven, written by Betty Ann Kevelist, who's
Yeah.
a historian at Yale University.
Yeah,
And in that book, she's interviewed every woman astronaut
yeah.
ever. And I bet you somewhere in that book it might talk about how do they really feel after
Some
having
people
gone.
died when they went.
Oh, sure.
So you're actually taking a risk.
Big risk. That's why for me, if to fly with to fly with someone like X-Corp Aerospace as his flight service provider,
Yeah.
to try to get the funding to do something like this,
Because it costs very much,
it
right?
costs a lot, but we don't want to just do it for the spectacle of it. We want to make sure that
You
when
were in there?
no, not yet,
Not yet,
because they're
okay.
not flying.
Oh.
It's still dangerous.
Oh.
It will be
it's
dangerous.
a wish. It's a wish. I see.
Well, no, they
built it.
they are building it, and it will be safe. I mean, I don't want to say they will
I mean,
never
maybe-
fly
maybe
unless it's
people
safe.
like what's his name, famous billionaire who paid in advance to go into space. What's his name? The guy who.
Yes, Tito, Dennis Tito,
Yeah, but there's another billionaire.
Elon Musk.
No, he is. He came to the Bay Area, but anyway, he paid in advance to go.
Hmm.
But it's so expensive. It's only billionaire who can afford it.
At this time, but 100 years from now, I'm gonna call you up and say, Arlene,
Branson, he paid in advance to go.
who is it?
Richard Branson.
Oh yeah, Branson, sure.
He paid
Oh,
because he
yes.
can afford it.
Yes.
But nobody can afford the $200 million seat.
At this time, but imagine 100 years ago, no one could fly. We could not fly from
Who
Paris
has
to
$200
New York.
million in their bank account?
None of
Very
us. It's
few.
very elitist and very exclusive, and only very few rich people get to do it. But that's not exactly true. The people who are going to the International Space Station are from every community, every economic level. Those people represent the diversity of our cultures. There are so many different people going to space.
You mean they go in the space, but here? They
When
don't
you-
have to pay for the ticket to actually go.
No, they're working with our government
yeah,
agencies
yeah,
and
so
stuff.
they
They're
go
supporting space
Just
science
like you
research.
did in a makeshift space.
A situation like
Yeah,
the
like you
situationist.
did it.
I learned about the networks. I learned about the systems. I learned how to apply and become friends and know the people.
And they say, come on in.
Not the first year. They said, we reject this proposal. We applied 2 years in a row. The first year we were rejected. The second year they accepted our proposal for flight.
Oh, okay. And that cost you a lot of money?
No, it was a grant from the federal government. This was the California Space Grant Program is a part of the National Space Grant Program.
They gave you a grant.
When Congress set up NASA, they gave every state a certain amount of money to use however they want, and the state of Texas used their money by creating a flight program for university students to do experiments in zero gravity.
But California also gave you a grant?
Well, I approached the Art Institute because that's where I graduated, and I said, since 1974, I've been wanting to do this. And I said, the only way I can apply is if it becomes a 4-credit college class. would the San Francisco Art Institute want to represent this so we can create a team of people to propose to go to NASA and fly our projects, our experiments in weightlessness, just like all the other science students from Emory-Riddle and all these major science universities. And there we were, the San Francisco Art Institute. And that was so cool because it was the first time, and this I see as social sculpting. This is how I see myself really working as an artist. I'm going into institutions and I'm making new relationships among people to change the way we live and to help improve the quality of the whole democracy. Like, if engineers and scientists go to space without art, I say there's going to be something lacking in that experience. It must include dance and theater and art and human expression. And that's going to help reduce stress and decrease boredom. And right now, it's expensive, but 200 years from now, the prices will totally come down. How expensive? Cell phones have $1 million worth of technology in them, according to Peter Diamandis.
But
million.
we can, because we sell 40 million of them.
We can have that $1 million worth of technology in our hand.
Okay, this is also interesting, but she wants us to wrap it up.
Thank you. Good. Okay.
So thank you. I know we can keep on talking forever, but I will definitely insert some of the art you gave me.
Nice to get to know you too.
Yes. So thank you so much, and I hope we'll see also your show soon.
I do have art shows. I do.
If you have time to take care of it. So thank you so much, and it has been a great show. 51 minutes, 38 seconds, plus I'll add the art. It will be